hear our voices, and if they don't hear them here and now, that they see and hear what we're here for today. Why are you here today? What is it that matters to you most?
Our kids!
It's our kids, okay? Whatever we do, don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on your kids. That's why we're here today. It's very unfortunate, it's sad, that we live in a time and a place where there needs to be a recognition of the fundamental right of parents for the care and upbringing of their own children. We've lived in a country where our rights have been blessed, our rights to freedom of speech, our rights to defend ourselves, our rights from protection against illegal searches and seizures, and our general, broadest, biggest rights of due process and equal protection under the law have been part of our institutions of justice for over 200 years. But here and now, in the state of Michigan, we're living in a time and under a system where there's oppression, where the government steps in and assumes the authority to act as a parent, and for no good reason. I want to share a little bit of a personal story. Very few of you ever met me before today. I have 3 beautiful daughters living in Traverse City. Their names are Holly, Abby, and Hope. My youngest daughter's name is Hope. 5 years ago,
I will.
on July 4th, 2003, my wife and I were having some difficult times together, and we were living outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I went out shopping to buy some things for our home, and my wife at that time, now my ex-wife, was planning a family vacation with my children. We were going to drop off our oldest daughter at camp the following day, and instead, when I came home from a trip to Home Depot, they were gone, and they had already left for Traverse City. At that point, I had no idea, no clue that my own rights as a parent could be threatened in the way that they have since then. But they have been threatened, taken away, and stomped on consistently ever since that time. There are very few. I talked to other dads here today, to Scott Green and Jeff Edwards. I've spent time with Robert Kerr, talked a lot to Randall Scotty. We've all gone through similar experiences, and dads, we aren't alone. We aren't alone at all. There are mothers who are treated the same way that we are. We have wives, significant others in our lives. My own mother has experienced and watched the pain that I've gone through, and my brother is now experiencing and going through a divorce and separation of his children. This isn't a dad's issue. This isn't a mom's issue. This really isn't a parent's issue. This is a kid's issue. Why are we here today?
Protect the kids!
Why are we here today? We're here for our kids. Can everybody help me say that together so that people around the city of Lansing and everybody in this building can hear us? Why are we here today? For our kids. We're here for our kids. Okay? These rights that protect parents are rights that ultimately protect our children. It's widely said in the groups that are here represented today that children need both parents. And a truer statement could not be made. As our culture has changed in the last generation, we've seen a number of things happen. Among those is that there are many more working moms and working women than there were when we were growing up, for sure. There are many more fathers who are staying at home with their children. There are many more fathers who are actively engaged in their kids' lives in ways our dads probably didn't imagine. And it's not just dads who recognize this need, it's moms as well. Whatever the situation is, we need to work together for our kids, for our children, for the next generation, to make sure that their rights are protected, and their rights can and are only protected through protecting the rights of both of their parents equally. It goes against my nature, my grain, my ideological grain, to think of and to seek out help from the government to protect our own rights. But in the end, if we're going to defend our rights, if we're going to build a future for our children, we have no choice but to come and petition the government, as we're free to do, to change the laws, to change the system, and to improve it so that the fundamental rights that were inalienably bestowed upon us by our Creator are recognized in this state and everywhere that we live and raise our children. What can you do? What can we do? The biggest thing we're doing is we're going to these around to the representatives and senators in our state this afternoon, letting our voices be heard, letting the petitions that we've signed be seen, and letting them know that when a law is so fundamental and so intrinsic and so vital to so many people, that 80 co-sponsors out of 110 representatives jointly sponsor it, that they can't hold it hostage in a committee. So the first thing we're going to do is make our voices heard on HJRNN. Please listen to me and closely as I propose a few things that we can do. That's the first step. But it's only a first step, because as Representative John Stahl has said, as we all recognize, all an amendment to the Constitution will do will write down in the Constitution of the state of Michigan a fundamental right that we already have, so that judges can't overlook it. They now have to take notice that the right that we already have is codified and incorporated into our Constitution, not just by the will of a few people or judges or the friend of the court, but by the voters and the people of the state of Michigan. Why are we here today? For our kids. Let's not forget that. Why are we here today? Because we want to care for our kids and give them a future that is brighter and more hopeful than things look for us right now. Let me propose something else. There are a vital series of changes, and one problem that a group like this runs into is, first of all, that we're small in numbers, and secondly, that we tend to be factionalized. And I gotta hand it to Larry Holland for the great work that, please everyone, give Larry a hand for the great work that he's done. First of all, organizing this event today, but also helping us to coalesce around one particular idea that can help begin to make the change that we all want and need, and that will benefit our children. As we move ahead, we've got to coalesce against a bigger, stronger set of ideas that will make changes come. How many of you have ever experienced difficulties with the friend of the court system? Let them hear you. How many of you have ever had difficulties with the friend of the court system? Say it out loud. All right, how many of you have ever had difficulties with the court system, the circuit court system, or other court system of this state, with a custody issue? How many of you have ever had a difficulty, been treated wrongly or unfairly in a parenting time issue? Now, how many of you have ever found justice when you sought to have those things addressed properly?
What justice?
And that's what the beginning with HJRNN is going to send a message, that the people of Michigan care about justice when it comes to the treatment of parents. What do we have right now that protects us? Well, we have our God-given rights, first of all. And we also have the Equal Protection Amendment under the Constitution. Unfortunately, the Equal Protection Amendment is largely ignored in court cases, particularly in family law. And that shouldn't happen. But this is an opportunity with this constitutional amendment for us to have our voices heard, for the people of Michigan to have their voices heard, that equal protection is available for all, including all of us who are dealing in the courts of family law. So we can make those changes. Now, let's take it another step. What can we do more? If we need to reform custody, if we need to reform parenting time, if we need to deal with the friend of the court, okay, let me make